Hey everyone, welcome to the channel, and welcome to Richard's Review Roundup, where we quickfire look at the albums from April 2024. Just a laid-back, quick set of thoughts on the new releases that have come out recently. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe for more, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. It's lovely to see you again. Let's get into it. Beyonce, Cowboy Carter. The difficulty with doing a breezy, light-hearted, do I like this album or not series is always going to be the big releases. And they don't come much bigger than a 27-song genre switch-up from one of the biggest artists in the world. The larger conversations about politics and authenticity could span video essays that last hours. But if you want to know that the tunes are here, of course they are. And of course they sound great. And she's brought along Willie Nelson and Dolly Parton. And also let's not forget that Beyoncé herself is from Texas. You can't get much more country than all that. It's ultimately quite an intimate record, and those moments are its most arresting. And although Yaya and Tyrant are a whole lot of fun, they both arrive much later on in the record. I think ultimately it does enough to respect and understand why country as a genre connects to so many, but still make it wholly unique to who Beyoncé is herself. And to do that is a monumental achievement. And while its experimentation in moments is a little messy, if this can open up doors for other artists to try this genre, and that can lead to deeper and more compelling storytelling that they and we've not experienced before, then that can only be a good thing. She's done house, she's done country, best of luck with that experimental progressive gent metal record next, Beyoncé. That's gonna be wild. From Taylor Swift, The Tortured Poets Department. Oh, well, that certainly was a big release to begin with. It's a good job this new Taylor Swift album is only going to be 16 tracks long. Anyway, I'm off to bed. Look forward to listening to it in the morning. Good night.
Okay.
All jokes aside, Taylor Swift fans, you truly live in an unprecedented time to have a favourite artist. A new album is here. Psych, you're getting 15 tracks more than you thought you were getting. And including the work she's put in to take back and re-record what was already hers to make it truly and definitively her own, you've had an album a year since 2019. That is an insane amount of music to release in such a relatively small amount of time. And if you're really dedicated, that double album theory that you made either came true or was so close you were basically right. And that one lyric that you are convinced is about a certain person has now been confirmed by so many sources. The sense of community and love among the fans for each other is heartening to see when a new album comes out. But the discourse that follows is absolutely exhausting. I logged off all forms of social media and gently made my way through the album 5 times over the course of 3 days. And what I found in a lot of ways was Taylor's most confessional, messy, and vulnerable record to date, filled with all the delicacies and intimacies that were sprinkled over Folklore, Evermore, and Midnights, but deeply rooted still in the sonic direction that Midnights took. Which I love because Midnights is one of my favourite albums of Taylor's. The intricate touches of arpeggiated synth work and solo piano ballads are always appreciated by me, even though I think she's taken this sound with Aaron Dessner and Jack Antonoff as far as it can go in a lot of ways. And with the album length, it certainly will test a patience or two. Even if the back half later stages of the album do bring in more guitars and variety, the reverb-soaked atmospherics do still remain. And lyrically, okay, I made the mistake of logging back into social media and Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm just going to sound exasperated for a moment and play this clip.
No matter how hard you try to avoid being cringe, you will look back on your life and cringe retrospectively. Cringe is unavoidable over a lifetime. Even the term cringe might someday be deemed cringe.
Singling out one line in a song while entirely ignoring the rest of the context it's about isn't the dunk you think it is. But, you know, I hope those 7 likes you got on Twitter for pointing out the Grand Theft Auto line were worth it. You really think the woman who sang lines like "Hey kids, spelling is fun," "This sick beat," and "the fella over there with the hella good hair" really cares about lyrics being cringe or awkward? She has owned her cringe, made it part of her personality and appeal, and is now weaponizing it accordingly. Don't get me wrong, there's lyrical clumsiness here and it doesn't all work. There's a fine line between overwritten and lyrically descriptive, and you know, there's 31 songs here in total. They can't all be winners. But if we're going to point out one line in a Taylor Swift song and say it's bad, we're going to have to start doing it for everyone, and at that point, we're basically being cinema sins, and nobody wants that. And after a while, it does all tend to blend together. Despite me loving the intimacy the record has, it's a lot to take in all at once. And I think the criticisms that I've heard about it being rather one-note in sound are simply due to it being 2 hours in length and to just how overexposed Taylor Swift is as an artist at this point. In the end, I love so much of this album, and I will be coming back to it over the course of the year a whole lot more, but it's a lot to take in all at once, despite its excellence. From MGK and Trippie Redd, genre Sadboy. My god, that's a stupid album title. Look, I went into this one with no expectations. I heard the two of them been friends for years, so hey, just two friends making music together. That can be a way for both of them to bring out the best in each other. For all you can say about MGK, I at least feel he puts in the effort for whatever he does, and as for Trippie Redd, I will confess I don't know a great deal about, sorry. The worst thing they could do is make something boring. And that's exactly what we got. Jesus Christ, this is rough. Just the most lifeless of instrumentation, low effort, and the woe is me type energy and delivery that is just deeply baked into all of this. It all comes across as amateur at best and bedroom musician who's just getting started at worst. Like two dumb kids who are just messing around with a cheap 8-track recorder. It feels like they're trying to split the difference between Juice WRLD and Lil Peep, but they see the music they made as more of an aesthetic rather than have any idea what made either of them connect so deeply to so many. Speaking of connecting deeply to so many, the Imogen Heap sample. In the past few years, we've seen older songs from Kate Bush, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, and Miguel become massively successful. Can we make some room for Imogen, please? I refuse to believe the biggest moments of this woman's legacy is going to be defined by being sampled by Jason Derulo, MGK and Trippie Redd, and that one stupid scene from the OC. She has multiple 10 out of 10 albums. I don't know, someone in charge pick one song and let's all get to work, shall we? The best thing I can say about this album is that it's only 27 minutes long. But even then, it's not some gather your friends so you can laugh at how bad something is, if that's the kind of thing you do. The hive mind that is the internet collectively decided this was dead on arrival, and me talking about it here probably made you say, oh yeah, I totally forgot this came out. A record devoid of any kind of substance, and just a miserable listening experience from start to finish. Alright, that was a lot to open up with. Time for a little bit of a catch-up. From Tapir, the Pilgrim, their god, and the king of the Decrepit mountain. A really intriguing and experimental debut project from the UK six-piece here, playing out a pilgrimage of sorts as this concept record describes a journey of mythology and religion. It's juggling a whole lot of genres like chamber pop, folktronica, with slight elements of post-rock as well. It's a lot to take on at points, and while others have been quick to make the Radiohead comparison, I'd say a less reverb-soaked version of Fleet Foxes would be the kind of area I'd put them in. But there's clearly a whole lot of 60s and 70s psychedelic and folk worship too. With so much going on, this could have easily been a disaster, and frontman Ike Gray's vocal delivery can be an acquired taste to get used to, but I'm 4 listens in and I'm still coming back. They've made everything work somehow, and that's a huge credit to them. Highly recommended. From Everything, Mountainhead. An absolutely blissful yet somehow dystopian new record from Everything, matching their ever-witty and clever songwriting while keeping their sonically diverse palette intact throughout. With immaculate synth tones, bass lines, and an endless amount of hooks that dig into you and refuse to let go. Like the Tapir record just gone, I have kept coming back to this one. I'm still examining every lyrical detail here around its mountain theme. Every listen unveils a new layer I didn't get to last time. This is a wonderful listen that I'm going to keep coming back to over and over again throughout the year. From Little Simz, Drop 7. Little Simz takes a much more electronic approach than on previous releases on this EP, while also working with elements of grime and even samba. There's lots of good ideas and fragments here that I really hope can be fleshed out more in longer songs on future full-length album releases. From Hozier, Unheard. Don't really have a whole lot to add here either. Do you like Hozier? I'm guessing you do because Hozier is great, so here's 4 more great songs to add to your various Hozier-related playlists. Go nuts, have fun. Next up, we have the self-titled album from Tyla. So water is great, I hope you're staying hydrated in these times, and as it happens, Water by Tyla is also pretty great. And if you like that one, you're probably going to find much the same to love here. Hot and heavy R&B flavoured Afrobeats that mainly veer on the very horny side, but also leaves room for touches of self-reflection and affirmation. It's kind of one note and definitely following an if it ain't broke don't try to fix it kind of formula, but it also breezes past very smoothly and leaves no room for any kind of filler, so I don't really mind. Just a really nice listen. I enjoyed it a lot. Before we get to the rest of the reviews, just a quick note to ask you to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you really like what I'm doing here, my Patreon link is below and is just £1 a month if you'd like to support me and the channel. Okay, next up, from Lizzie McAlpine, Older. Another achingly beautiful and raw record from Lizzie here, as she weaves a tapestry of coming-of-age stories across her third album. And while mostly the instrumentation remains sparse, minimalist, and intimate, there are some incredibly charming chamber orchestral moments as well, that invoke elements of chamber pop. Fans of Fiona Apple or Regina Spektor will probably get a lot out of those moments. And as I welled up over the heartbreaking album closer Vortex, I really hope a record this powerful and wonderful can finally help her find the peace she's looking for, but also break away from that Phoebe Bridgers box of stereotypes that she's found herself in. Because although there are of course similarities, there's so much more to Lizzie's work overall. A beautiful album that I absolutely loved. From Sum 41, Heaven and Hell. The supposed last ever album from Sum 41. Such a strange thing to say that, but even stranger to think that they've been at this for 30 years. This band was formative to me getting into a lot of pop punk in high school, always reliable for the tunes and the good times, and despite everything the band, and in particular Derek Whibley, has gone through, their later material at points felt like the best moments of their career. So if this is truly the end, then that's really sad. But also, they've definitely gone out on a high. Half the album feels like taking the best of their early material, the sticky pop-punk riffs and hooks matched with the bratty attitude and delivery, while the second half from Rise Up onwards is much heavier, and lets Whibley really go off in the vocal department, and he's really got the pipes for it. And once again, the riffs and hooks are just as strong as the first side. I think both halves of this record are really good. It might run a little long for some, but if this is to be the last album, you definitely don't want to leave anything unsaid or anything on the cutting room floor. I really hope to hear all the band members in different capacities, either solo or part of other bands. And thank you for all the music over the years. It's been a pleasure to hear it all. And lastly, from Oliver Anthony Music, Hymnal of a Troubled Man's Mind. Oliver Anthony has always fascinated me from the moment I heard the now infamous Rich Men North of Richmond, which I find very telling isn't on this debut album. In another timeline he could have rode the conservative discourse over that song right to the bank, but instead he's distancing himself from that, and full credit to him. Also getting a producer as prestigious as Dave Cobb to mix your album, he knows what he's doing getting someone as great as him. This is, however, quite a bleak listen. You're not going to have much fun here. Good for a wallow and thinking about a whole lot of things, right down to reading Bible verses as separate tracks, which are just delivered in a rather deadpan sort of way with no background accompaniment, and combined with a lot of lyrics here, particularly on Doggone It, definitely come across in a we live in a society kind of way for those of us who are far too online. But I can see it connecting with a whole lot of other people as well. Oliver feels like a man out of another time, as the prominent and ramshackle guitar reminds me a lot of Django Reinhardt and Robert Johnson, but the fantastic touches of fiddle on I Want to Go Home show far more contemporary leanings, which is great to see. I will say this is an interesting listen at the very least, it just doesn't make it easy for you. But if you meet it halfway, I think there's a lot to like here. If you're curious, check out the recommendations and go from there. And that'll do it. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, it would be a wonderful help to the channel. A video containing thoughts about Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Oliver Anthony and MGK is sure to have one hell of a comment section, so have fun there. Leave comments about what you think on these records, or what you enjoyed listening to in April. Or anything else you'd like, it all helps the algorithm. Thank you again for watching. I'm exhausted and I'm going back to bed. Good night.